This is the box to the EP133 KO2 by Teenage Engineering. I've recorded myself unboxing it more than a while ago, when I first had the having of it. Ever since this device was announced, I was excited to add it to my toolkit. I've never had a sampler before, and the KO2 has a lot going for it as far as portability, compactness, and general accessibility. Not to mention, I've had great fun with the pocket operators. Since this is my first sampling machine, I've gone ahead and devised a fun way to get to know it better. An assignment of sorts. I have this project where I like to do DAWless synthesizer jams on trains, and I'd like to use the KO2 in one of those jams. So I think it's fitting to bring the KO2 on a sample safari, or at least a brief adventure where I could hone my skills as a person who does sampling. I've been exploring subway themes on this channel lately as far as jams are concerned, so I think it would be appropriate to go gather some wild samples at a train station. But alas, it's appropriate for me to make sure that, it functions before I take it on an adventure. Everything appears to be working alright. Quick little aside. Remember when everyone was talking about the fader-ish? I do. In fact, I never put the little knobby thing on. Actually, it looks like I kind of lost it at this point. Anyway, here we are. There's a litany of sounds to choose from. I'm going to try to collect a combination of environmental sounds as well as some classic audio instructions. Perhaps some stand clear of the closing doors or what have you. And, it doesn't take especially long to gather plenty of noises, plenty of samples. I think the real trick will be figuring out how to set my samples to a tune. I understand this is a really unique and interesting space to explore musically speaking. Sampling sort of feels like an art form in and of itself. Because it certainly is. This is hardly the perfect or ideal place to collect samples, but I think the mercurial and sort of messy nature of places like this actually lend themselves well to a style that I'm going for, creatively speaking. In projects like this one, I suppose. I guess what I mean to say is that the messiness sort of lends an air of authenticity, genuineness. Collecting samples in a place like this sort of makes me imagine trying to paint something where your palette is already all mixed up with colors. All the colors are all mixed together. And you're trying to paint by separating out those colors again to find the color that you need. Don't mind me, just another weirdo on the L. Now, the KO2 comes with a generous amount of excellent drum samples, so I will be using those sort of straight out of the box, as it were. Trimming the samples down to size does a lot to make them make sense. That and retiming them a little can go a long way to enhancing the musicality of something like the skidding of a train down tracks. This is coming together alright, but it's still missing something. It occurs to me that, to fully appreciate the KO2's capabilities, I'd like to also have the sampling of some analog media. Today we're going to snag some samples from Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass, because it is the right thing to do. My good friend Brad gave me a bunch of Herb Albert records a couple of years ago, and they get plenty of use around here. And they seem like premium sampling fare. Like I said, I don't really have any experience doing this myself, so I'm not entirely sure what I'm looking for. I'm figuring that as I listen and sample some choice bits, the vision will become clearer to me as I fiddle around. It feels kind of like a sonic scavenger hunt. These records are pretty old, like I said, but I actually sort of like that quality to them. They're a little bit hairy, and I feel like that lends itself well actually to the medium, as it were. It's like sort of textural and contributes vibes. Good vibes. At this point, I'm feeling like I've collected more than enough to sift through and try to make sense of. After all, that feels like that's most of the process, as far as sampling goes. Sifting and adjusting, that is. I certainly have some work cut out for me.
Platform edge. There are 150 accessible.
I think this is coming together rather splendidly. All I can think to do now is get together what I think I'm going to use for the L-Train jam and try it out. The KO2 actually occupies so much sort of sonic real estate that I don't feel like it needs very much to cover like a mix or a well-rounded sort of profile. So I'm just going to be using the Nymphes controlled by the Keystep and keep it kind of low-key. Anyway, I'm enjoying the heck out of the KO2 so far. Given its slim and sleek form factor, I'd describe it as eminently backpackable. A fact that I find quite endearing, in the sense that I'm very much drawn to instruments and music-making machines that I can explore more easily in unusual places. Something that fits into my creative work readily, as I've always enjoyed writing and creating, improvising and the rest in interesting, novel environments. For me personally, I notice that I have the tendency to think and write, perform differently when I'm in such places. This is because it gives me access to different parts of myself. But speaking more to the KO2 itself again, I'd say that it appeals to my aesthetic interests as well. Big shocker there. Teenage Engineering continues to make interesting and cool-looking stuff. As for the workflow, it's genuinely my first sampler, so I can't speak to it readily, as I don't have much to compare it to. That being said, I feel like I've taken to it relatively easily, and I bet you will too. So, do the thing and sample something weird and make it into a jam. Do you find yourself watching YouTube videos about some person who's doing something with some stuff in some place? I find myself there often. Does the algorithm serve you a video about some dude sampling train noises and vintage records with his copyright strike machine? Do you ask yourself, how did I get here? Who is this? Why is this happening? Well, feel free to let me know your questions, accusations, or ponderances in the comments. I'm genuinely interested in what you have to say. And if you're up for it, maybe like or subscribe.